I want to start this video off with a disclaimer. It's pretty cool that a 25-year-old and a 22-year-old got to write and direct a relatively mainstream comedy horror movie with a wide release. That's the kind of shit I want to be doing, so I'm happy to hear that it's still a possible endeavor. That being said, Billy Burke and Finn Wolfhard's Hell of a Summer left me writhing in my chair with annoyance and disdain. I think a lot of people's first reactions to this really horrible review will be, it looks harmless. And it mostly is, but that might be exactly why it grinds my gears to the degree that it does. It's so safe, so inoffensive, and just really fucking boring. I'm not saying the pacing is bad, the dialogue is quippy, scenes go by really fast. If anything, it feels specifically tailored to the Gen Z attention span of its creators. No, it's boring in a different sense. It does absolutely nothing to push forward the typical camp slasher, and its execution of that genre shows that this duo doesn't even understand it. The whole point of a camp slasher is to imbue the viewer with a retro nostalgia feel before shattering it with the terror of the killer. This thing never once has that feel to begin with, and it is extremely frustrating. It consistently looks like digital sludge. The opening scene of our lead pulling into camp is supposed to evoke a sense of childlike wonder, and instead looks like a fucking Kia commercial. It just seems like a classic case of a lack of identity. I think maybe it wants to read like a parody of these camp horror films, or even just camp films in general, and the horror is the vessel for the parody, or they're just trying to make their own straight up camp horror film for a modern age. I don't know, I don't think our wunderkind writers and directors know, and it's really a shame. Also, the entirety of the film takes place before the campers arrive, opting to focus exclusively on the counselors, and that just completely takes away the fun camp vibes. Give me the capture the flag sequence, the talent show, shit like that. Instead, we're left with these painfully uninteresting, unnaturally hot camp counselors. And now that we're on the subject of the counselors themselves, we can talk about probably my biggest issue of the movie. Hell of a Summer has a very interesting approach to comedy, in that instead of writing actual jokes, they just make each character a unique brand of insufferably annoying. This is the worst for the lead, a golden retriever incel wimp who inspired countless collective groans from my theater. I have to give the film some credit. They really know how to do cringe comedy to the nth degree. Unfortunately, he reads like nails to a chalkboard. Supporting cast is pretty frustrating too. They're all just assigned a stereotype and play it to the most annoying way possible and think that makes it a funny time. We have the insufferable film bro, the insufferable influencer, the insufferable popular kid, the insufferable goth girl, the insufferable bimbo, insufferable, and Finn Wolfhard. I understand I'm approaching this film with a slight bias, as I've always hated this nasally asshole since season 1 of Stranger Things. And he's, writing, directing, and starring in this, but I've never wanted to reach through a screen and Homer Simpson strangle someone more in my entire life. There's this extended bit about how good Finn Wolfhard's character is in bed, and the joke is that, wow, he's literally the perfect man and lover, and he's majoring in gender studies, and that's so funny, haha. Bro, you wrote the movie. You wrote this movie. You made those characters say those things. These aren't real things people say. You wrote it. I fucking hate him so much. And then I go on TikTok the next day, and that exact clip is being recommended and advertised to me. Because Finn needs to let as many people as possible know how fucking cool he is with his fictional character. God, I hate the little twerp. I'm gonna punch him. I'm gonna punch him. I thought Abby Quinn was pretty good as Claire. She kind of falls into the quirky, not like other girls stereotype, but she has enough of a unique look and cadence to pull it off. Then again, it's a little bit tainted by the fact that she has to have a romance with the cringe captain himself. She could do so much better. And I found Billy Burke himself to be a solid character to root for, even if his dialogue does fall into the blatantly unfunny humor that haunts this entire script. It is shockingly apparent and surprising that this guy has more charisma than his counterpart, as he's a relative unknown while Wolfhard over here stars in one of the biggest TV shows ever made. And that's the kind of flip side of my disclaimer at the beginning of the video. There's no way in hell this movie would have even made it past pre-production if Finn Wolfhard wasn't involved. His weird chokehold he has on younger audiences is the only reason the script didn't get skimmed and tossed into the wastebasket, because it's truly doing nothing new or interesting. Okay, so if the humor doesn't work, and the aesthetic doesn't work, and the cast doesn't work, then what really is left in a camp slasher horror comedy? Well, the slashing. I figured that if this thing had nothing to offer on the comedy side of the coin, at least I could get some satisfying kills and a threatening killer. But nope, because Finn can't let me have anything nice. No, all the horror here comes off lackadaisical and even tertiary to the plot. First of all, we got the killer in the most cliched and least frightening costume imaginable. A crappy devil mask. Secondly, these kills are seriously bland. The opening kill of a horror film is supposed to be this grand display of the slasher's brutality, setting the tone for the rest of the film. Here, the stupid devil guy just stabs some people. And for the rest of the runtime, half of the kill sequences cut away before we get to see anything interesting. I get this had a pretty small budget and probably couldn't afford crazy practical effects, But when a movie cuts to the next scene every time an axe begins to get swung, it comes off as seriously lazy. Third of all, and easily the most frustrating, is that the motivation of the slasher is laughably overdone. Seriously, it feels like the exact same motive of multiple Scream movies, feeling more like a placeholder motive than anything. And there's no big reveal of the killer here. Nope, that would actually lead to some engaging story beats. Instead, after like the 5th kill or so, they just decide to reveal who it is to the audience, dispelling all sense of mystery with still like an entire act left. What a fumble of a ball they barely had their hands on. So yeah, I pretty much hated Hell of a Summer. I suspect a lot of people are going to like it, as it's not doing anything remotely interesting enough to inspire general hatred, but maybe that's why I feel the way I do. We need to be taking bigger swings. And a retread of a tired genre with poor writing and direction, awful horror, and an incessantly unlikable supporting cast is barely a bunt.